read between the lines when they getting out of place. Help me run this marathon, help me run to keep my pace. Holy Father, please forgive me, cause you know I make mistakes. Help me when I feel condemned, help me know that's not the case. Lord, I need you.
What's good, y'all? Welcome to the Substitute Preacher Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah Johnson, aka the Substitute Preacher. This is the third episode of my new series called Get to Work. I'll be doing this series all throughout the summer, and really the intent of it is to just give advice and tips for people trying to find, whether it's their first job, their dream job, whatever the case. I'm offering tips such as how to create a resume. See my last episode for that. Reference checks, cover letters, all that stuff was talked about and referred to in my last episode, so give that a watch if you're in that boat. This episode is going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing a mock interview with a special guest of mine. We'll be doing that shortly. So you'll get a chance to see some role playing of interviews that may need some work, and maybe you're in that boat. Maybe you're always uncomfortable or nervous in interviews, which is definitely natural. It can be an intense situation. Like I mentioned, if here's the chance for you to get your dream job, and it's you're one interview away, that's a lot of pressure. So I'm just gonna offer my guest and I some tips to ace the interview and put yourself in the best position to succeed, and hopefully it all works out for you. So with that being said, when it comes to interviews, and a lot of times depending on the job and the interview process, typically the interview is the last stop. So there may be a phone screen or a phone interview, a Zoom interview, and then 1 to 2 interviews. And if you do well on those, depending on the competition, you could potentially get the job. So very critical component, probably the most important part. Like I mentioned before, when it comes to resumes and references, it's all about preparation. And so, of course, there's going to be curveballs, and you may never ace an interview because you just never know what's going to be on it. You might not know who you're dealing with and their personality or what exactly they're looking for, but you can only prepare as best as possible and hope for the best. That's what it's all about. So let's say you watch the Substitute Preacher Podcast. You've seen the last episode going over resumes and cover letters. So you're good with that process. You aced it. They loved your resume. They read your cover letter, enjoyed what you had to say, and now they want to meet face to face. Come on in for an interview. You get that email. So this is an exciting moment. Again, you're one step closer, and if you do really well in the interview, chances are you're going to get the job. How do we prepare for the interview? So upon getting that email, or if it's on a call and the hiring manager says, all right, we're going to move forward to the next steps, we want to interview you, it's very important that you understand what kind of interview it is. Now, they may not give you the questions to expect up front. However, there are a lot of things information you can get up front, such as, obviously, it starts with logistics. Where are you going? And of course, they're going to give you that information, but you want to make sure you know exactly where to go. I would check on your phone, put it in the maps, put the exact time the interview is, just to see what the estimated traffic's going to be like. Always show up on time to an interview. There's, of course, time and punctuality is huge just in general in anything you do, but especially in an interview. Chances are if you show up late, that reflects how you're going to be as a worker, and the hiring manager is just going to assume you're always late. We can't rely on this person. You're not going to get the job. So that's huge. That's number one. Got to know where I'm going and make sure I'm on time. Of course, it is important to be early. So I would aim to be around 15 minutes early. That'll give you some time to just decompress, study your notes, which I'll talk about shortly, and just make sure you're 100% ready for the interview. That also gives you a little bit of leeway in case maybe you get lost on the way there, or you go to the wrong building, or things happen, and whatever comes up, you want to be able to have a little bit of extra time to make up for it and get you there on time. For me, in everything, and it goes back to my college football days, when there was no being late. Like, if we were late, it was the most severe punishments. How do I know? Not from experience, because I wasn't going to be late, but my teammates, a few of them, it happened. They overslept, and then we would get what was called down patrol, and you'd have to come in the next morning and just go through hell, basically. And so I never got down patrol. I was never late. And I took it seriously, just transitioning into my work, and whether it was interviews or showing up to the job, always on time, really consistent with that. However, there was one interview out of however many I've been to, maybe 10 or so interviews. There was one where I was late, and I did the advice I'm giving you right now. I checked the distance, the location. I was coming from San Leandro and going to San Francisco. And obviously that bridge, anything could happen. And so I checked, and I literally left I gave myself about an extra 45 minutes. It was estimated maybe about an hour with the traffic, hour 15. I left about 2 hours ahead of schedule, and I still ended up being late. I lost the building, and sure enough, I didn't get the job. The man I interviewed with, and he kind of bluntly told me, like, hey, through our conversation, everything sounded good, but man, you being late just really hurt your chances. So know where you're at. If you're in a busier part of the city, or you're crossing a bridge, or dealing with that morning traffic, especially in the Bay Area or LA or New York or one of these big cities, definitely just plan ahead. If you have some time between the interview, if it's a week in advance, maybe do the drive a couple days before, just to make sure that, get a feel for it and make sure you give yourself the best chance possible. It's also important to know who you're going to be interviewing with. So are you interviewing with maybe HR and the hiring manager, or potentially your direct manager in whatever the position's going to be? Sometimes it's a panel. You may deal with 4 or 5 people, and they're just going question to question. So usually the company, they'll tell you that in advance, but if they don't, it's okay to ask. It's always okay to ask questions. That's a pattern, and that's something that'll continue to come up throughout this throughout the interview process. It's okay to ask questions. The more you know, the better. It's not going to hurt you. So know who you're interviewing with. A lot of hiring managers, or anyone in a management type position, a lot of them have what's called LinkedIn, and it's almost like the Facebook of business, and you can connect with people of all different industries and build relationships. But one thing, all you need is the name. I would set up an account, because you type them in, you search them up, and it pulls them up. It gives you their background, their, what schools they went to, what they majored in, their previous jobs. And you can make connections that way. Like, figure something out. You see a picture of them and their dog. It's okay during the interview to maybe bring that up. Hey, I love dogs, and oh, I love dogs too. You don't have to tell them that you stalked their profile, but the more connections, and the more, we're all people at the end of the day. So if you can connect with the person you're speaking to or interviewing with, that's gonna only bode well for you in the long run. Last couple things, just when it comes to preparation, you have to know the company you're dealing with. So do some research on the business, or just as I mentioned with the managers, do some research on the company. What are their core values? If they ask you that, and which of our core values is most important to you, and you have no idea, you got to wing it, that's going to look horrible. So know what the company's talking about, visit their website, and be able to talk about their mission, their goals, and big picture, but then also with in regards to the position. Review the job posting and what they're talking about with what you're going to be doing specifically. All right, last two things here, I think. And then with that being said, jot down notes, whether it's notes in your phone or having a notepad. Write it down. It's always good to bring that to the interview. Like I mentioned, you show up 15, 20 minutes early. You don't have to go in, 20, 30 minutes early. That's a little too early. So sit in the car, review your notes, and then bring it into the interview. And you don't have to tell them it's your notes. You could act like you're taking notes, but if you get stuck or forget something, you can always refer back to your notes. You always want to have a few questions to ask the interviewer at the end of the interview, and they'll always ask, do you have any questions, or what questions do you have? They want to know that you really care, and if you care, you would have questions to ask. So come up with maybe 3 to 5 questions, possibly more, because they may answer a few unintentionally during the interview. So have some questions on hand. I'll go more specifically into that at the end of this, but have some questions to ask, put them in your notes, and ask away when they get to that point of the interview. Lastly, attire. So I was actually going to come in a full suit, but nah, it's kind of hot, and this is just a video, so I'm not interviewing. But I always ask, hey, what kind of attire, what should I wear to the interview? It's okay to ask that. And if they say, hey, just whatever, if they're secretive and just, however you want, it's better safe than sorry. I would dress business casual. So men, button up, a tie, a jacket if you have one, slacks, dress shoes. Better safe than sorry. Ladies, if you want to wear a woman's suit, if you have, or at least a nice blouse and some dress pants, a modest dress, church clothes basically. So make sure you're dressed the part, you look professional. I had a teacher, Mr. Lehner. He was a great rugby coach, Cal rugby player. I played for him 1 year in high school. He told me, he was my teacher my senior year. He told the class, if I'm interviewing someone for a job and they don't show up with a watch, that I'm not going to hire them. And that goes back to punctuality and being on time. Obviously now we all have phones. It's a different era, but I would, again, play it safe. If you have a watch, I would have a watch. Show that you prioritize being on time and that you value it. You want to look as clean and as sharp as possible. I would normally have a haircut. I was gonna for this video, but I'll save it for the weekend before Hawaii. So yeah, you want to look sharp, and hopefully the glasses make up for it. I feel good in glasses. It makes me feel smarter. So whatever's going to make you feel confident and ready to go for the interview, you want to put it all front and center and be confident walking in. So again, preparation is key. Make sure you have all these in the front end. Usually you have at least a few days between them scheduling the interview with you and actually having the interview. So in those days, you have a little bit of time. Get your notes ready, do your research, make sure your clothes are right, make sure that you know where you're going. And lastly, just to kind of put it all together, some people aren't as comfortable public speaking or speaking in front of a couple others for, again, like I said, an interview, it's a lot of pressure. If that's the case, I would get with a friend or a parent or just whoever you're comfortable speaking with or whoever you're close to, and do a mock interview with them. Have them ask you a few questions you might expect and see how it sounds. See maybe what you might need work on and go from there. All right, so with that being said, now we're going to actually demonstrate and give you, like I said, we'll do a little bit of role playing just to show you what a good interview should look like, and then also the flip side, what maybe isn't appropriate or isn't gonna be the best interview. And if you could kind of learn from that, I think you'll be in position to succeed. So here we go. All right, I'm back and I'm with my beautiful guest, my wife, Justina. She was kind enough to join me and help me do a mock interview. Do you want to just kind of tell the people briefly about what you do for work and what it entails?
Sure. So I actually work at Lowe's. I am the receiving manager. So I bring in everything that comes to the store and I receive it all. Unloading trucks and loading trucks. I maintain associates and delegate tasks. So I'm pretty busy.
Yeah. How many people do you have working under you?
4.
Your team of 4. Okay, cool. And you've been in a similar position for a while now.
Yes. Before here, I was with Home Depot.
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention.
And that was about 4 years ago.
Yep.
With the same position.
Yeah. And then I know we talked about it a little bit before the interview. With Lowe's, you haven't as much, but with Home Depot, you used to actually take part in the interview process, right?
Correct.
Okay. Cool. All right. So Justina's going to be the interviewer, and we'll just do it as if I'm applying for a position at Lowe's. This position is just customer service. We actually found like an interview template for customer service. So she'll be going off of that, and we'll just we'll do a role play, and then in between we'll talk about it, things I did well, things I didn't do so well, how to correct it, and then we'll just kind of go on, so on and so forth. One of the things I forgot to mention in preparing for the interview is it's always important to have a couple copies of a resume. And I would always bring a couple extra. So if you know that you're going to be interviewing, let's say with two people from the company, I would bring maybe 4 managers, because you never know who's going to sit in on the interview or be walking by and they'll say, oh, we have they'll introduce you. It's always just something good to hand out. A physical copy, I know probably 90% of the jobs, they're going to have your resume on hand anyways on a digital copy, but it's important just to have it just in case and look professional. So, wife, these are my resume copies.
Thank you. When I interviewed for Lowe's, I actually interviewed with an assistant store manager, and then I met the store manager the same day. So having multiple resumes is actually a really good idea.
Yeah, perfect example. All right, cool. So just the first point of order in this whole thing is body language. I wanted to address that because, especially for you younger people, I'm around the young people, the students at school, and body language is something that a lot of them need improvement on. They hardly give eye contact, especially speaking to an adult or someone with authority. So eye contact is really important, and we'll talk about it here in a second, but first impressions are huge, and literally all it takes is a few seconds in interacting with someone or meeting someone for the first time especially, and they could already have a decision just like that. Yep, I'm not hiring this person. And then you're wasting their time, and you're especially wasting your time, which you don't want. So keep that in mind. Watch this interaction and just kind of observe, and you think about what I might be doing well, what I need work on, if it looks right, and we'll go on from there, okay? So we just sat down. I'm waiting for the hiring manager, Justina, and yeah, let's get it.
Isaiah?
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
What's up?
Justina.
Yeah, Isaiah.
How are you today?
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm just chilling.
Awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I mean, I'm from the Bay. I'm 29. yeah, I'm just trying to, maybe find a job or something, work with you guys.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you.
How'd I do?
You had no eye contact at all.
Eye contact was horrible, right? And obviously I'm doing this on purpose, but that's how some of y'all talk for real. So if it is, yes, work on it in your personal life, but especially when it comes to interviewing, you have to maintain good eye contact. And I'll give a good example shortly. What else do you think I could have worked on?
It was very vague and boring.
Vague, boring, dry, right? Just no energy.
No interest.
No interest. Exactly. If I'm not showing interest in her, who's has the power to hire me, why is she going to show interest in me? Why is she going to want to hire me? Another thing that just goes hand in hand with showing interest is just politeness, common courtesy. She asked me how I was doing, and I didn't ask her how she was doing. I just said, good. Again, I'm Mr. Downer. I'm just boring. I'm like Squidward. But she asked how I was doing. Oh, I'm good. But then I didn't return the favor. I didn't ask how she was doing. And you want to make them feel good too. Ask about them and make sure that they're in a good place as they're interviewing you.
As well as he was on the phone when I went to go call for him.
Yep.
That's a no. If you even get there 15 minutes early, you should not be on the phone the moment you sit down and wait for the interview.
Yes, exactly. Good point. And then I think lastly, another thing, and again, it's partly because we're doing an episode, so we're not
Relax.
actually face to face, relaxed. But yeah, I'm kind of hunched over. I'm just I'm all
Eternal
this.
in the shell.
Yeah, exactly. So get out your shell, stretch out, big chest, right? You want to be confident, speak demonstratively, and that's gonna be the first step in getting consideration for the job. I do kind of have to lean to speak in the microphone, so take the tips, and then if you see me continue to kind of slouch over, that's the reason. All right, so now we'll do take number 2. We're gonna meet. Let's start all over. Let me try it a different way and see if this will work.
Isaiah?
Yeah.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, Justina, right?
Justina.
All right, great to meet you too.
How are you doing today?
I'm great. You look good. They ain't tell me I was interviewing with a model.
Okay.
You got kids or?
Yeah, I do. But let's
my bad.
stick to the interview.
Yeah, my fault. You brighten my day.
Okay. Oh, okay. So.
You got a man?
Okay. Let's stick to the interview.
All right. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
I didn't mean to be unprofessional, but
Yeah.
it was a compliment.
Okay. Thank you. So tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from the Bay Area. All right. Obviously, you don't wait till you get the job, and then
No.
what?
You're
It
there
might
to
work
work.
out.
You're
All
not
right.
there to find a companion.
Okay, but if she's stunning like my wife, and you, hey, who knows? Maybe it's meant to be. A lot of people, there's a lot of work relationships. That'll have to be a topic too. But if you pull a Pam and Jim and become a office couple, you have to go about it professionally, and there's a lot of risks when going about that. But it's also natural because you're with them every day. You work closely, and that's normal to happen. But not during the interview. That's a no. Don't get it.
Especially with the manager.
Especially with a manager, yeah, for sure. But wait till maybe there's down the road, y'all do a lunch or a happy hour, then maybe try and make a move.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. All right. One more shot. I got an Infinity Stone. I was able to go back in time, and now I'm gonna right or wrong, and hopefully I'll do a lot better this time.
Hi, Isaiah.
Hello, Justina?
Yes?
Yeah, good morning. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm from the Bay Area. I'm pretty young, so this is this will only be my second job.
Okay.
I work at In-N-Out Burger right now doing customer service.
Awesome.
So I love just working with people and seeing that smile on someone's face. And so, yeah, I love what your company has to offer. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
Awesome.
All right, guys. So that wasn't my best performance, but that was obviously a lot better.
The best of three.
The best of the three. I spoke with more confidence.
Professionally.
Let's see. What else?
Your answers were professional and straight to the point.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do extra.
Didn't do too much extra, but like the first example, I wasn't just like she alluded to a turtle in a shell. So that I chose that question on purpose. A lot of times that is one of the first couple questions that an interviewer will ask. And it's tricky because it's like, oh, are they asking me to tell them about my work experience? Or are they asking about my personal life? How much, I don't want to be too open and just tell them personal things that maybe they don't even want to hear in the first place.
Right.
You never want to bring up politics or even religion is sometimes, if I went in and said, oh, I'm a Christian, like, yes, for some companies and some, maybe if you know their background, that might sound great. But others, it's like, oh, they're a different religion than me. I don't want to hire them. Even though obviously there's laws and there's legal, you can't discriminate and stuff like that in the hiring process. Just so unconsciously, like some employers are going to hear something and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm not feeling it. So just keep it kind of straight to the point. Gauge them, and if it seems like they really genuinely want to know about you, it's okay to say, yeah, I'm married, I have a daughter, I'm from the Bay Area, and then yeah, maybe just sprinkle in a little bit about your job and what you're doing at this point. All right, so just moving on, we talked about just body language and your presence in the interview, and then there's that first question, tell me about yourself. How do I go about answering that strategically and hopefully get them to start liking me, and then also just kind of tell them about myself a little bit. Next, and one of the most important things, she's going to ask me about my work experience. So again, same thing, we'll interact and then we'll break it down.
Okay, Isaiah, can you tell me about your past work experience? And if you don't have any, that's okay. If you ever volunteered or maybe school projects, babysitting, anything would help.
Yeah, of course. So like I mentioned earlier, I work at In-N-Out right now.
Right.
That was my first actual job. Before that, I helped with my uncle. He has a landscaping business.
Oh, very nice.
So yeah.
So you know a lot about outside garden products.
Yes, for sure. Right. So working with all the tools, and I'm really good with my hands, and yeah, I enjoyed that. And then now I'm at In-N-Out. Right now it goes by levels, so I'm on level 3. So I do the fries, okay. And I make the fries a lot.
And what's the highest level?
The highest level is 7, and that's when you get into management and stuff like that.
Very nice. Have you ever thought about going into management?
No, and honestly, I'm a vegan now. I've changed my health and my lifestyle, so I kind of want to get away from the burgers, to be honest. Okay. So that's why I'm looking for something new. I enjoy being around other people and working with the team, working with other people, but I'm cool off the burgers now.
Okay.
All right. What would you say? How would you assess that interaction?
It was confident. Mm-hmm. The answers were strong. The only thing I would say is that it is an interview for a customer service position.
Yes. And
instead of saying that Isaiah makes the fries at In-N-Out because he's a level 3, he could have said how well he loves assisting the customers and being at the register,
yep.
Interacting with customers at work, but he didn't mention customers at all.
Exactly, yep, and I did that intentionally. Like I mentioned in the last episode, when it comes to resumes, you always want to match what you're doing with the job description. You want to tie them together. And so, and I said this last episode, you never want to lie on a resume. I don't want to lie to my future employer in the interview, because if they find out, it's all bad. You ain't getting the job. However, like she said, if I'm working at In-N-Out and I'm level 3 now, level 1 and 2 is more dealing with the customers. And I know this from experience. So I'm in the dining hall interacting with them, or I'm at the cash register for level 2, taking payments and taking orders. So even though maybe I'm not doing that quite as much now at this point, I can still refer back to that to tie it into what they're doing. Exactly. And what I'll be doing at this job.
Okay, Isaiah, so I know you mentioned working at In-N-Out. Do you have any other job experience? Maybe not a job, but something you volunteered or school projects you did? Or can you tell me a little bit more about In-N-Out as well?
Yes, definitely. So at In-N-Out, I've worked my way up, and it goes by levels. So there's level 1, you start in the dining hall. And I really enjoyed that because I was interacting with a lot of the customers there. I was just making sure that they had everything they needed. I would offer to get them extra ketchup or napkins or sauce, whatever they might need. And then I've worked my way up. Now I'm a level 3. So I do the fries, but I also have experience working the cash register, taking orders. And so I love my interactions. And of course, every now and then I'll see my friends come through, and that's great. But it's cool just meeting new people as well, seeing families walk in together and seeing their smiles just over eating some food. So I enjoy that. I also have experience. This was just more a family business. My uncle, he does landscaping. Okay. So in high school, I would help him out, and sometimes he'd have me reach out to the potential clients, and I would talk to them and find out what they need and just make sure they were all squared away.
Okay, very good. So you're comfortable with using the phone and calling people you don't know?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I think he did it to kind of make me uncomfortable, but now I'm more comfortable doing it. So, that experience helped.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that was a lot better. There was great detail about customer service and how well Isaiah enjoyed helping customers, going out his way for customers. And then to even add the landscaping, especially for Lowe's, that gives him more opportunity to get further with the career or even learn more, because we have outside garden, inside garden department. As with him going to customer service, he can switch to different departments. But also him being able to call any customer. That's a big deal. A lot of people don't like talking on the phone anymore. And so for him to be comfortable with answering the phone or calling customers, that's a plus.
You do want to genuinely highlight the things you feel you do well at your job and the things you do at your job. But if you can make it relevant to the job and what you'll be doing with this new job, you're golden. That's going to help. That's going to help tremendously. All right, guys, a couple more significant concepts we're going to go over here. First being answering open-ended questions. So she's going to ask me a question. We'll jump back into the interview, and I'll give a couple different answers, and we'll see which one sounds the best.
Isaiah, can you tell me about a time where you had to work with a teammate to achieve a goal?
Yes. There was a time, let's see. So at In-N-Out, like I mentioned with the levels, so we had a new person come in, and I was going to be moving on to level 3, and he just needed help. Level 1, he wanted to move up to level 2.
Okay.
So he just kind of needed help, and I helped him get to level 2.
Very good.
All right. So not a horrible answer. I answered her question. However, there wasn't details. And I mean, anyone could say, oh, I helped someone move up a level. I helped someone at my job. But with open-ended questions, describe a time, tell me about a time, is not yes or no questions. So you want to fully answer the question by giving, specifics, a specific incident or example, and what you did to obviously refer to whatever they're talking about. So anything else?
Yeah, so a lot of times they'll tell you, take a minute if you need.
Yeah.
But Isaiah just kind of jumped right into it, and whatever was the first thing that came to his mind, he thought it was good enough.
Exactly.
It was very vague. I actually was going to say, can you tell me how you helped them? So hopefully this one's a lot better.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You never want to overdo it and just continue to speak and run on with the question. You do want to be direct and to the point. At the same time, though, you don't want it to be vague and just, like she said, questions like those, a lot of times they will say take your time, but if they don't feel the need to rush, and it's okay. I can ask, hey, can I have a second to think about this? And of course they'll say yes. And if they don't, then that's just kind of messed up. You got to figure it out under pressure, and yeah, hopefully you do well. But think about the question. Take a second, or take maybe 10, 15 seconds to actually process and think about what they're asking, and think about the perfect example you could give that's going to relate and reflect your ability to do whatever they're asking about. All right. Take 2. I'm ready.
Okay.
I love your smile. And you reminded me that this goes to the beginning when I was talking about body language and everything. A smile goes a long way. And sometimes when you're talking a lot in an interview and you're using a lot of energy, it's like you forget to smile. But you just want to remind yourself to smile. And these naturally, unconsciously, it's going to go away and you're talking, but just a little reminder, even if you want to write it down, smile more and peek at your notes and make sure you smile.
Yeah.
So
that's one thing. Like, I'm always smiling, but I also have to be very careful with my facial expressions because that's how I express. So smiling's great, but try to keep the rest composed.
yes, definitely. All right. Next one here.
Okay. So Isaiah, can you tell me about a time you worked with a teammate to achieve a goal?
Yes, definitely. Would you mind if I just think? I have a few examples. Can I have a second to think real quick?
Of course.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
So back when I was a level 2 at In-N-Out, we had a new person who was a level 1, and I was looking to move up to level 3. Obviously, they were looking to move up to level 2, and so what we would do, one, we would just challenge each other and motivate each other. His thing, like, he's such a hard worker and a great worker, but he would forget to smile. And so he'd be wiping the tables down, taking the trash, helping out with the customers, but he would always, like, his face, it would just go away. And In-N-Out emphasizes smiles and being friendly to the customers. So I would just always remind him, hey, let me see that smile, or try and make him laugh just so he would smile. And then I would also just help, just kind of test him on some of the level 1 things that he'll need to take when he does the test to move up to level 2. So, and then he did that for me as well. So it was cool just working together and challenging each other in a fun way so we can both move up and just help the company big picture.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. That was much better. It was very detailed, and the explanation and the growth that they both got out of the situation was important to what he's trying to achieve for us as well.
Yes.
And so the relatability is key.
Absolutely.
The fact that I can see him doing that for Lowe's, even though he's talking about In-N-Out, is very important.
Yep. Bingo. Again, you always want to relate it back. And so that was what I did. That was a bad example. I couldn't really think of nothing, not just in the mock interview, but in the actual us talking. Ironically, I ended up referring back to the smiling, which was one of the tips I just gave. So, not the best example, but hopefully you get the principle. You want to go into detail and always come back and relate it back to the question or the big picture, the position. All right, so last couple kind of questions here. We're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses. which is a common thing most interviewers will ask. And even going back to the open-ended questions, any good interviewer is going to ask open-ended questions. Yes or no questions, the interview is not really going to get anywhere. It's just basic information. But if you can get more detail and more practical and relatable experiences from the person, that's what you want to get as an interviewer. So expect that as the interviewee. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about strengths and weaknesses. Same thing. A good company is going to want to know what you're good at, maybe what you need work on. And so we're going to talk about that now.
Okay, Isaiah, can you tell me 2 or 3 of your greatest strengths while working?
Yes, so I'm very hardworking. I feel like I'm always the hardest working person in the room. And the other thing, they kind of go hand in hand. I'm very competitive.
Oh, okay.
So I like to compete with everyone. I like to win and be number one, and I want to be the best.
Okay.
All right. So with those there, and again, this goes back to the open-ended questions. Yes, she asked me a direct question, and so I gave her just 2 answers. However, I want to give an example. I want to show why. Anyone can say that they're a hard worker. It's so cliche. But what evidence do you have? That's the important thing. That's what she wants to know, and that's what's going to sell her on me in the long run. So we'll get to that in a second. The other thing, I said competitive. Certain answers you want to be careful with because you don't want to come off as arrogant or too cocky or not a team player. So if I'm like, oh, I want to be number one, I want to be the best. Yes, that's good in some settings, but not always, especially if I'm going to be working with a team. So keep that in mind as well. All right, so now you can go ahead and ask me the question again.
Okay. Isaiah?
Yes.
Can you tell me 2 or 3 of your greatest strengths while working?
Yeah, so my strengths, I would definitely say I'm hardworking. And I know that's cliche, but an example I have is with my uncle. Like, we would wake up at 5 a.m., literally, and work until sometimes 5 in the evening. We were very motivated, and that was his business. He was looking to grow it. And so I was looking to assist him any way I can. And I would go door to door sometimes. I mentioned sometimes I would make the calls for him on the phone. And I feel like he just really instilled a good work ethic in me. And so I carry that till this day. You asked for 2. The other one would be that I'm very competitive. And I would say, like, I'm all about the team and the team goal. However, like, my competitiveness drives me. And I always want to do whatever it takes to reach the goal. And so then that goes back to my football days. Like, I just love winning so much, and I feel like, I want to do whatever it takes to win, and not only to make myself look good, but to make the whole team, the whole company look good as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so that one, I obviously provided a little bit more support for my case as a hard worker, dating back to the landscaping. And then the second one wasn't a great example, but I mentioned the competitiveness again. But now, instead of, I want to be number one, I made it more about the company, about the big picture. So I mentioned the football experience. I could have maybe gave an example about winning a championship and how, it was great for not only myself, but for the whole team. Like, so something like that is fine, as opposed to, me.
Yes. And what also is a really good answer is discipline. So for you athletes who have practice every single day, almost every day in the year, or you guys having to do weight room and then still have practice after in 100-degree weather, whatever the case may be, that's a lot of discipline. And you have to be strong-minded to be able to do something like that. And discipline's really important when you have a job, because that shows your attendance is going to be great.
Yep. That
you're going to be ready for anything, and any task handed to you, you'll be willing to do because you're disciplined to listen.
Exactly, yeah. Any athletes out there, like she mentioned, a lot of the work ethic and what it requires to be a good athlete or a good teammate, it's going to translate. So especially for you youngsters, if you just got out of high school, you're looking for your first job, or if you're in high school looking to work and you play a sport, that's all the work experience you need. Any job, it's going to provide great experience as well, but a sport can offer just as much.
And for us girls, not saying guys aren't, but 90% of us girls are detail oriented. We care about the little things.
Sexist.
That's really big too, especially for something I do. It's so important to have your eye and be aware of everything in my position. And my position is the most important position in the store as an hourly associate. So being detail oriented is an amazing characteristic to have.
Nice. All right. We talk strengths. Now we're going to go weaknesses. Now this is tough because should I be honest and say what I'm weak at and exploit myself and now they don't want to hire me? Or should I lie and say, I have no weaknesses? How should we go about answering this question? I'm going to do my best right here.
Isaiah, can you give me 1 to 2 weaknesses or areas of improvement?
Yes, so I'm very unorganized, just being honest. Like my room is a mess at the house. And I think it's because I work so hard and I'm always working and busy and trying to provide for my family and help my mom and sister out. But yeah, I have trouble being organized and I'll get to work and, they have me doing one thing and then I'm worried about something else. So sometimes it's just hard for me to just focus on the main thing and not be so active.
Got it.
I think the other one might be, it was a strength, but that I'm sometimes too hardworking. And so I put a lot on my plate and I forget things. And then I'm just kind of, like I mentioned, just kind of scattered and all over the place. I feel like I still do a good job. I get the job done, but I'm not the most detail oriented because of that.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I just talked myself out of the job, right? I went from saying I'm hardworking and, having a good presence. She's liking me. She's feeling me. But she has weaknesses and I spoke too much. I said my room's a mess and I'm scatterbrained and all these negatives. I kind of talked myself out of the job at that point.
Yeah.
She's not going to want to hire me. Anything else? All right. So let's try that again. Just one more quick thing there. She said 1 to 2 and I gave 2. If they give a minimum, I would stick with the minimum. You don't want to give too much weaknesses because that's deterring you from getting the job. So let's try that again.
Isaiah.
Yes.
Now can you give me 1 to 2 weaknesses or areas of improvement?
Yes, absolutely. I think one thing that I struggled a lot with initially when I started working at In-N-Out was being organized. Just because I'm always, driving my younger sister to school and, from place to place. I do a lot of extracurricular activities. I play rec league basketball. And then so getting to work, my schedule was all over the place. However, recently I started using the calendar on my phone more. And so I put my schedule in at the beginning of the week. And that way I'm able to know what's going on. And that way I can get to work and just not even worry about that at all. And I can just go based off my tasks. And I feel like I do a pretty good job. So I would say being organized was something I struggled with. However, I think I've turned around. Maybe still a little bit of room for improvement, but I'm getting a lot better at it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Much better. The explanation and the growth that he's showing or explaining is exactly what is needed with that type of situation. Because explaining that you are trying to improve is all we're looking for.
Exactly. Everyone may have a weakness, and of course, like I mentioned, the job may not want to hear about it, But what are you doing about it? How are you going to turn it around? You know, and again, it reflects on your work ethic. What are you doing? How are you working to change it and to get better at it?
Right.
All right, guys. So that's, again, interviews can be complex. They can be very simple. I've been on interviews, I think we both have, that lasted maybe 15, 20 minutes. And it was quick. Only a few questions. And I've also been on interviews that were 2 hours. And they're grilling you. It's a panel. You're meeting with different people. They're shadowing you around the job. You're meeting with other associates. So it all depends. So again, be prepared for the worst, for the most extra stuff out there, and whatever happens from there just happens.
So I had an interview that lasted 4 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and don't let that discourage you. The amount of time of the interview does not matter. I still got the job. They called me the same day. So do not worry about how long the interview takes. Everybody's different when it comes to interviewing.
Yeah. Not everyone has a beautiful smile, perfect smile like her, but that's probably what got it for her. But 4-minute interview, as long as you control what you can control and put your best foot forward, have a good presence, and just do your best, you never know. So
it wasn't my smile.
Well, for me, it was. That was an interview. Us getting to know each other, it was an interview. And we both got the job. All right. Lastly, there's so many articles out there. You know, what questions should I expect for an interview? Type it in if you're nervous or if you're worried, and I'm sure you could find something to help you be more prepared. I mentioned this earlier in the video. You want to have questions yourself, notes and questions that you're reviewing throughout the interview. And so now we're at the point where at the end of the interview, she's going to ask me if I have any questions.
Okay, Isaiah. Thank you for allowing me to get to know you and answering my questions. Do you have any questions for me? Yeah,
I do have a few in my notes. I know you answered a couple just throughout the interview, and it's been a pleasure interviewing with you guys. Hopefully I get the job. But here a couple questions I have. I know the job starts at $19.50 an hour. When can I get to like $25 an hour? Like, how long does that typically take? Like, what's the jump? Like, I'm trying to make some money, you know?
Don't ever ask that in an interview. If they offer you the job, then you can ask what the pay is going to be.
Exactly.
But do not ask how you can jump to $25 an hour from $19.50.
Yep.
When your opportunity comes to move up, that's when you ask for your pay increase.
Yes.
But do not bring up pay during an interview.
Don't bring up pay. Don't bring up This one's tricky too, but you're not trying to take anyone's jobs. Just focus on the position that you applied to. If I'm talking about, I want to be the manager of the department, and I'm sitting here talking to her, what's that mean for her? That may intimidate her or make her feel like, who's this guy like trying to take my job? Make her feel threatened, or even just make her look at you silly. Like, what are you talking about? You got to start here before you can go up. So do you have any other good questions to ask at the end of the interview? Or any bad ones?
So a good question to ask is, what would your typical day look like at work?
Yeah.
I have run into situations a few times now where I'm unfortunately not the one interviewing anymore, but my manager is, and the people that are being hired for me aren't understanding what they're getting into. So by asking that question, you'll have a clear understanding of what the day-to-day may look like in whatever role you're going to be offered.
And that goes back to just being truly interested in the position. Like, that's going to show you have interest. Like, he wants to know about the actual day. Similarly, asking about performance and like, what does a top performer in this position look like?
That's a great question.
You know, what... someone and they may give you an example. I have, Sarah and Johnny, they're great employees. Like they do this and that. to keep our department up and going.
Yeah.
Now, they may not mention, hopefully they don't mention any names of people doing the opposite and they're, kind of holding the department back. But yeah, you want to know what you're getting into, like she mentioned. Going back to specifics, like you can ask what metrics to expect, like what goals should you have coming in, or what goals does the department have coming in, and how can I help? What should my numbers be? It's a customer service position. How many calls a day should I be, do you expect me to make? What's good versus average versus below average, and how can I get there? So another one that I like is, again, people enjoy talking about themselves, and so asking the interviewer, hey, what do you enjoy about the company, or what do you enjoy about the department? When you were in this position coming up, when you first started this job, what did you like? What did you enjoy? What did you dislike? So that's another good one.
Yeah, that's a really good one, because then you're going to hit them off guard and they're going to answer truthfully because that's the first thing that's going to come to their mind.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But yeah, there's so many questions, good questions to answer that show either your knowledge of the company or the position. And yeah, you look them up if you need any more, but that's a good place to start, and write them down just so you have them at the end. You can refer to your notes and it looks like you're well prepared.
Even while studying the company before you go for your interview, write down certain things that you saw that you were curious about and question them as well. I interviewed for Starbucks and they use Guatemalan beans, and so I brought that up during an interview and, used that as a question.
Yeah. And
they enjoyed the fact that I even knew that their beans came from Guatemala.
Exactly. And yeah, perfect example. I was going to mention like the core values or some of the, principles of the company. If you know that stuff from the website, maybe say, what is your favorite core value? And that's dangerous because you don't want to like expose them for not knowing them, because chances are they probably don't know them.
Oh, we know.
But, well, you do. But yeah, maybe just to kind of show that you did your homework and you know what this company is about.
Yeah.
And now, okay, I want to know what your opinion is or what you think of it. So that's always good as well. We gave a lot of good ones to ask.
Yeah.
Negatives, again, pay, you don't really want to ask about, or benefits in the interview. Like all that stuff you could get after you receive the job offer.
You can ask about schedules.
Schedules is fine, yes.
Because they're going to want to know your availability anyway.
Exactly. Yep.
So that's very important to bring up.
Schedules are good. You don't want to, I would say just the biggest detractor would be like making it all about you and like I said, pay or, your goals. Like you don't want to come off as intimidating or as obnoxious or cocky. You want to be humble and ask questions about the position. Ask questions about the company. So, thank you so much. Beautiful.
You're welcome.
I hope this helped a lot of you out there. I'm sure it did. Please subscribe. We're going to be talking about this stuff in all different types of jobs and industries throughout this series. So subscribe, send to a friend, a colleague, a sister, a brother who may need it. One more thing I'll add that's important, and I did mention this in the last episode, I believe, but showing your appreciation is important too. So maybe not so much anymore, but like back in the day, people would bring thank you notes. Now we use email. So I would email whoever you interview with. Get their card, or you probably already have emailed them leading up to the interview. Make sure you email them. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. I learned so much about the company. It's always great to refer to something that was said during the interview. I like learning about, or I didn't know that Lowe's does X, Y, and Z, whatever she had mentioned. Because again, that shows that I was paying attention.
Yeah.
You got to be attentive. It shows that you care, and it shows that you're really taking this thing seriously.
Yeah.
And then just as a whole, leaving a thank you letter or note, sending that email it goes a long way. Seriously, it can be, if let's say she interviewed someone who she feels like, oh, they're about the same level. Like I like both, but I send a thank you note and the other one doesn't. Chances are she's going to lean towards me, because I said that's just a way to separate yourself. Hopefully it's sincere, but again, it's going to help you in the process as well. All right. I want to pray for anyone with the interview coming up. Maybe, like I said, hopefully you're in your dream job right now, but if you're not, then eventually you're gonna have to interview again at some point. And I hope that it all works out for you. Real quick. Father God, I thank you so much for this time. I pray that there's people out there that can put it to use and that learn something from this video. I pray that you bring confidence and peace to anyone out there getting ready to interview. I come against any just anxiety or nervousness. Help them to prepare and to put them in a position to get the job. And if they don't, then you have something even better for them. So thank you so much for this time. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, y'all. Take care. Next episode, I will have another guest, and they'll be talking about their work, what they do, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned. This is going to be a fun series. Subscribe. Peace out.
Bye, guys.